Welcome to another episode of Geek Money Life, where we talk about money and how to make sense out of your dollars. And so in today's video, we're going to be talking about emergency funds. So this is basically going to be an emergency fund 101 class where I'm giving you the definitions of an emergency fund, the details of it, and then at the end of the video, whether or not you really need an emergency fund. So let's start off by defining what an emergency fund is. So in this case, it's money set aside for any emergency situations. For example, you lost your job, you close your business, there is a medical situation, there's problems with the family, whatever the case might be, money stops coming in. And what an emergency fund allows you to do is to take care of your basic living needs. Things such as your shelter, your food, your medical needs, taking care of your family, especially if you have kids. That's what it's there for. It's not there for extra things that you see as emergencies. For example, buying that big screen TV, getting a new car, getting those brand new clothes that you really wanted. Those are not considered emergencies. So an emergency fund is strictly there for you to actually live without having to go into more debt. That's really what an emergency fund is, because it is an extra outlay of cash made available for you in these situations where money stops coming in. And an emergency fund typically falls into three main categories of time. They're either a 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month emergency fund. And later on in the video, I'm going to be talking about which one works the best. So now that we have an understanding of what an emergency fund is, how do you actually fund this? What is the best way to put money within this fund? Well, the simple answer is you're going to have to work more. Whether that means working more at your current job or business, or finding additional sources of income, whether that is a side hustle, another part-time job, or maybe even another full-time job. You really have to find a way to fund this emergency fund. And the more money that you have available, the quicker the emergency fund is going to actually be built up. So once you start putting money into your emergency fund, you might be asking yourself, which one do I do first? Do I pay off all my debt first and then go to my emergency fund? Or do I do my emergency fund first and then pay off my debt? Well, in this situation, I highly recommend that you focus on putting money into your emergency fund first and then paying off your debt. And so if you're asking, why would I do it that way? Why shouldn't I pay off all my debt first? Well, here's the reason why. If you're putting all your money into paying off your debt, what happens when you actually do run into emergency, where you lose your job, your business, your source of income? Well, in this case, you'll probably have little or no money to actually take care of your basic living needs. And because of that, you might have to go into more debt. Whereas if you actually focus on putting money into your emergency fund first, well, now you have an emergency fund built. And so now if you did that and then you went to pay off your debt, if for whatever reason something happened with your job or your source of income, well, you still have some money left, and at the same time, you could stop paying off your debt temporarily. So that is why I would say focus on putting money into your emergency fund first, and then you could focus on paying off your debt. All right, so now that you've decided to go with the emergency fund first instead of paying off your debt first, we now have to think about what is the best strategy for the emergency fund. Should you do 3-month, 6-month, or even a 12-month emergency fund? Well, in this case, I really feel that the minimum you should do is a 3-month emergency fund. And I know this is going to be really difficult, especially if your monthly expenses are high. But by having 3 months of emergency savings available, this will give you time to actually look for some more income if you happen to lose your primary source of income or you had some type of unexpected emergency. I think for most people, 3 months is enough time for them to figure something out. But at least for me, I think the best way to do it, and it's really going to be hard for a lot of people, it might not be possible for everyone, is to have a 6-month emergency fund. I really feel having 6 months is going to give you a lot of time to really plan things out without having the huge stress of money or having to get money right away. Now, having a 12-month on the other hand, that is one I don't think many people are going to do, but at least for me, that's actually where I'm heading. I already have more than 6 months, and so for me, I'm going to have a 12-month. But I think for a lot of people, if it's possible, the best one is a 6 month because it's going to give you so much time. It's also going to allow you to really think about how you want to approach things. If you're in a situation where maybe you don't like what you're doing, you don't like your job or your business, 6 months is a really good window. And 12 months, I think that is overkill for most people. But for some people like myself, where we just want even more freedom of time, that might work best for those type of people. And so that's my thoughts on which one is the best strategy. 3 months, I think, is a minimum, and it'll work well for most people. And 6 months, if at all possible, I think is the best way to go. All right, so now that you've learned everything that you needed to know about an emergency fund, we now come to the big question of, do you really need an emergency fund? Well, my simple answer is yes, absolutely. I really feel that everybody should have an emergency fund, if at all possible, even if it's just 1 month. Because whenever you run into those emergencies and life situations where things happen, which they will, it really makes a huge difference whenever you do have some money set aside. Because I think we've all been there where we don't have money and where we're really stressed. It's really hard to focus on the things that are most important, and it even causes problems with the people that you love the most. Whereas if you did have some type of emergency fund, especially if it's going to be 3 months or more, you have a lot more time to focus on truly solving the problem and making the best decisions for yourself and the people you care about. And at the same time, the level of stress is going to be so much lower, and it's just going to be a better overall experience versus having to always worry and react to these situations whenever emergencies happen. So that is it for my video on emergency funds. If you actually had any thoughts on this, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And if you did enjoy these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you on another episode of Geek Money Life.